And for us, we'd want free movement of goods and services. We'd want opening up of the border. And there are several opportunities which exist in Tanzania economy, particularly now that it's a huge country with a bigger population as opposed to Kenya. And therefore, this is a very important trip on our part.
Almost a year since he was elected president, Kenya is just down the road. He doesn't need even to fly. As in, there must have been a problem somewhere.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, but I really hope there wasn't a problem, because, you know, we've had very good relations. Tanzania has been our friend since even before independence, and a very close friend at that. They are a very important market to us Kenyans. So when we read that there was something wrong between this current government and the government of Tanzania, it was worrying. So I hope that clears the air on that. Would really like to see the markets open so that you can have a big East Africa community with several hundred millions of people. Then our businesses can thrive and people can be able to get jobs, and our goods can go into Tanzania and vice versa, and our businesses can go and open in Tanzania and vice versa. I think we should also learn a little bit from a governance standpoint. You know, Mr. Magufuli, President Magufuli, has been very consistent, and he has actually taken leadership from the day he got elected as president. He walked into government businesses, government offices. He saw him on TV asking people, "Mbona mjakuja kazi? Where are you? You need to be working for this government." You saw him reduce government wastage drastically by minimizing delegations of cabinet ministers and other senior officials abroad, by minimizing the fleet of the government. And for him, he's really like, let's cancel even national holidays and parties, and let's put that money into a project. So he came up with a very progressive way of thinking. And a lot of people don't know Tanzania's economy has been growing very steadily for a long time. And if we don't watch out, those Tanzanians used to come to Kenya and think it's London. We will be going to Tanzania, think it's London. So that's something that we need to watch out for. Another thing, just before I conclude, that we hope to learn from Magufuli and Tanzania is how they're able to keep their country together. There's a lot of the ethnization went on. They look at themselves as Tanzanians and not various tribes. And the national cohesion there is significant. So I was in President Uhuru's shoes, and we had a sidebar with President Magufuli. Those are the questions I'd be asking, so that we can learn as a country and do
of
that
course,
here.
People are saying that there's a lot that we could borrow from Magufuli's style of leadership in Tanzania, in terms of fighting corruption, in terms of even governance and government expenditure. Because if you put the two presidents side by side, John Pombe Magufuli and Uhuru Kenyatta, even in just terms of foreign travel, Bwana Magufuli rarely travels out of the country, and that's one of the reasons why he said he didn't come to Kenya, because he's only gone to Uganda and I think Rwanda. He's not even done 5 countries outside since he became president. But you look at President Uhuru Kenyatta, and he's even been accused, I remember a few months back, people were making fun of how many times he's out of the country. Do you think there's something that Uhuru Kenyatta could learn from Bwana Magufuli in terms of being...
Let me say, first of all, I'm very excited that President Magufuli is visiting Kenya. Tanzania and Kenya are joined at the hip. We are two countries that share borders. We're two countries that share people. They are two countries that share history. And so we have a lot to work together as members of the East African communities and as active members of the African Union. And I think Tanzania is one of the largest trading partners. We need to consolidate and build on that. As to the leadership style of the two presidents and the direction that Tanzania has taken in terms of its governance and politics, this is a historical matter. It is not something that you can duplicate or create in a day. Our divisions in terms of region and in terms of ethnicity date back to the colonial period. We were a settler colony where identification in the divide and rule policies of the British government was based on ethnicity, which was then duplicated by the successive Kenyan leaders and inculcated to be part of our national political outlook. While in the case of Tanzania, Tanzania from the very beginning had a different kind of development. It was not a colony, it was a protectorate. And when President Julius Nyerere took over, he worked for a unified Tanzanianness. It's not something that Magufuli has created. And Magufuli has inherited that historical process of development of Tanzania as a united country with less ethnic and regional friction. On the issue of Magufuli style of leadership, I would say comparing it to ours would be like comparing apples and oranges. Every president and every leader has his own style of leadership, and the peculiarities of the Tanzanian experience. Tanzanians been tired with the ruling party of CCM's many years of single party rule. It was he was elected on a platform of change, and he had to take a new direction, shape his countries in a different way, lead in a different way, in order to be able to win the public support that CCM and his leadership kind of requires. But one of the things that I think I would like to be resolved is if there are any differences. Tanzania obviously has problems in some of the issues related to the East African community. President Uhuru Kenyatta has taken a leadership role in the unification of East Africa, economic unification, the free movement of people and goods, and there appears that Tanzania has some concerns. So I hope this would be an opportunity for the two leaders to discuss that and to resolve that issue, because Tanzania is an important partner in the East African community, and we need to go together to realize that East African community, which has freedom of people, freedom of goods, as well as start the process toward political confederation of the East African countries.
Yes, of course, the relations have suffered since Magufuli took over. In recent days, we are reading about even the flights between the two countries by KQ from 42 to 14 a week. That's a third. Actually, this common visa that Uganda, Rwanda and Kenya are talking about, Tanzania said no, you can't work. Surely Tanzania has been the biggest economic partner to Kenya for years. Do you think that these two leaders could actually come up with something to work together again?
And I think it's important to call a spade a spade. There's been a very love-hate relationship between Kenya and Tanzania, and in the recent past it has moved towards more of an adversarial relationship. Just in May in Tanzania, our officers, the Kenyan government officers, their passports were confiscated when they had gone to look at the routings. Yes. You know, Tanzania is actually looking at Kenya as a serious competitor as opposed to a partner. Yeah. You know, there's a big problem in terms of work permits. Kenyans really get a hard time in terms of getting work permits. Just the other day, you remember Tanzania had refused to sign an EPA, Economic Partnership Agreement, which we were meant to sign as EAC with the European Union. You can mention the issue of flights. So for me, there should be a very honest, candid discussion with our president. Yes. So that you've noticed that there are two serious deals that the president of Tanzania has literally swept off our feet. One is the pipeline deal with Uganda. So again, in EAC, you can see what Kenya is selling is more or less what Tanzania sells to the other countries. Yes. So for me, I think there should be a very honest and candid discussion as to how we are going to move forward. Yes. And not to forget mentioning the issue of the common visa that we have proposed. Of course, Tanzania has literally refused. So there has to be a very serious discussion with Tanzania. But in terms of Magufuli, I think there are key things that we have to learn from him.
One, and I would want to respond to what Honorable Yusuf has said. You know, I was observing the Tanzania by-election. I can tell you for a fact the people of Tanzania had moved from CCM.
The Tanzanian election.
The Tanzanian election. And the electorate had actually moved from CCM to Chadema. And Magufuli was the right candidate in the wrong party. I can tell you for a fact, if Magufuli was the opposition candidate, he would have outrightly won. So in that election, CCM, because it has lost public confidence, and the reason was the issues to do with corruption, issues to do with the wastage in government. And by the way, for the first time in the history of Tanzania, a candidate in a government party was riding on a platform of change. So even Tanzanians were asking, how are you going to change that? And yet it is the system that brought you on board as a candidate. And he managed to actually sell his ideals, and he's actually stood by them to date. And that is the reason why, again, we hope that he will teach our president that you are the leader. And I want you to mark my words, the leader. There is no any other. So you cannot sit and say that your hands are tied. You have to keep on giving hope to your people. Because let me not lie to you, Fred, issues of corruption, you know, it's literally killing our country. Issues of wastage, and those are the two key things that Magufuli has literally tried to deal with.
Yes.
And just so that I can advise my brothers from Jubilee, they need to understand that Jonathan Goodluck lost purely because he could not tackle corruption. And during his reign, corruption was so rife. That's why even the people of Nigeria, he was young, he was good at PR, he would connect with the people, but the fact that he never dealt with the issues to do with corruption and wastage in government and issues to do with security, Nigerians opted for a much older president and left a young, energetic, vibrant president who was Jonathan Goodluck.
Yes. Now, I would like us to look at the cartoon on page 14 of the Standard, if my director could help me with that. And John Pombe Magufuli, or the caricature of the Tanzanian president coming down his plane and seeming to hand President Uhuru Kenyatta a whip. Do you think this is what it's suggesting, that President Uhuru Kenyatta is lacking a whip to take care of his people?
Well, the point is we must distinguish between the Kenyan constitution and the Tanzanian constitution. We are now operating at a quite different pedestal compared to Moi, Kenyatta, Kenyatta 1, or even Kibaki. And also vis-a-vis the new guy in Tanzania, that is President Magufuli. Because like now here in Kenya, you cannot just wake up and tell people to go home. You cannot fire anyone. Under the old constitution, civil servants were working at the pleasure of the president. Under the new constitution, that is no longer in place. We all know under the Bill of Rights, the right to fair administrative action. It means before I take action against you, I must give you time to respond to the allegations, and also I can even challenge your action in a court of law. And we have seen even governors attempting to fire corrupt CECs, or those people, when they go to court, they get court orders. So we must learn that the president in Kenya is quite a fettered president. He cannot wake up one day and start beating up people. When those people go to court, more often than not, they are going to get injunctions, they are going to get stay, they are going to appeal. There are so many tribunals in this country which challenge presidential powers. And therefore, we must understand we are now working under a new regime. And therefore, this portrayal is not practical. President cannot just wake up one day and start beating up people. It is not practical. It's not a practical cartoon.
I think what the MP for Kiaru is saying is our new constitution allows corruption, and I think it's not true. The president has the power to run the government and to run it properly. This cartoon is hilarious. What it's saying really, it's just giving, in short, what Kenyans think that we need, what Kenyans think of our current leadership. And Brian said it very well. The president is the leader, and the leader must always be in control, and the leader must have the power to do what is right. So I think we need to stop running away from this thing that have not been given power. There's institutions to do their job, and so on and so forth, and really just do the job that Kenyans have elected the president to do.
Yeah, I don't know if my director can actually see the cartoon I'm talking about. I'm holding it up. Yes. Is it clear? Yes. That's the cartoon on the Standard, where we do have John Pombe Magufuli coming down the plane and seemingly holding a whip and handing it to our President Uhuru Kenyatta. And of course, immediately everyone next to Uhuru Kenyatta takes off. And do you agree with this depiction that probably that's what our president needs, to crack the whip?
Well, I mean, the president has taken action on corruption before. He had fired 6 members of his cabinet since he took over. He has spoken quite clearly on the need to sort of deal with corruption at every level. What we do need is also for him to take action against institutions that are not performing to optimum. For example, if the Anti-Corruption Commission is not doing its job, then action should be taken. If the Director of Public Prosecution is not doing his job, he should be pressurized and shaken up. If not, he should give way to someone else who can do the job. And of course, public officials who have been placed in positions of trust should resign when they're implicated in corrupt activities, or to allow for investigations to take place, or for the job to be done to make sure that the situation in their ministries or in their departments are taken care of in terms of accountability.
Yes. Bwana Weke, of course, Irungu Kangata seems to suggest that Magufuli's style of leadership cannot work in Kenya. Do you agree?
First, I'm looking at that caricature, and what I am seeing is that anybody who is next to Uhuru Kenyatta has actually literally scattered. That is a clear indication that the whip is meant to deal with the people who are close to him, because those are the ones who are alleged to have been very corrupt. So he just basically what Magufuli is saying is that he just needs the whip. Now, when I hear my brother, and who's also senior in the profession, saying that our constitution is a little bit different. Now, even in Tanzania, the issue of separation of powers is very clear. The president cannot arrest, interrogate, investigate, and subsequently prosecute and judge. So that, you know, that narrative, we are tired of hearing that narrative. We want action to be taken, and what we are saying is that we want political goodwill to deal with the corruption. You cannot say, and I repeat, you cannot say as the President of the Republic of Kenya that your hands are tied. The president's hand can never be tied, because we have, and that's the reason why we voted for him. So let me be very clear. So that narrative that the president cannot and will not, what we want is to see what the president did last time when he went to parliament and literally fired 5 ministers. That is what we want the president to continue doing. You don't tell us that you have no authority, because you have a lot of authority as per the constitution, and that's the reason why you're the president of the Republic of Kenya. So what we are saying is this: corruption. We want, and this particular, and in today, we want actually the president to take serious action. And I want to agree with the Honorable Hassan that if you look at Article 251, it is very clear on. Do you know the grounds of dismissal of even an independent officer? One of those things is actually incompetence. So if you're telling us that an officer of EACC is not doing their work, then clearly they're incompetent, and they have to face a tribunal. So they are different. Believe you me, there is a route for virtually everything in our constitution. You cannot sit and say that our constitution is new. It has given authority to other
and in the Mundli, just to also give you some light, in Nairobi County alone, yeah, since we came into office, we've indicted and fired over 300 people for corruption. 300, and hundreds of them are in court. So if the governor can do it, how can you say the president can't do it?
Okay.
And this is fact.
Okay, of course, Bwana John Pombe Magufuli is jetting into Nairobi today for a 2-day visit. And his visit comes at a time when the relationship between the two East African neighbors has been described as chilly and could provide an opportunity for Magufuli and his host, President Uhuru Kenyatta, to clear the air over some of the sticky issues that include non-tariff barriers imposed by Tanzania on Kenya, work permits, as well as fees charged to EAC students. Now I move on to another story, and I think we'll wrap it up with this one. ODM's National Executive Council has unanimously adopted a report by the party's disciplinary committee recommending that tribal members be expelled. The report will now be presented to the party's National Governing Council today for ratification, in a move that could see the rebel leaders face the risk of losing their seats.
The Orange Democratic Movement top brass today held a day-long meeting at the party's Orange House headquarters to deliberate on a host of issues. 13 ODM rebel MPs and governors are now staring at losing their seats following recommendations by the disciplinary committee that they be expelled from the party for violating Section 14(5)(c) of the Political Parties Act.
The report by the disciplinary committee of the party investigating the leaders who publicly defected to other political parties was presented today at this meeting. And we have made various recommendations, including expulsion of some of these members, and this has been adopted by the National Executive Committee.
The meeting was chaired by ODM party leader Raila Odinga, with more than 30 members of the party's executive committee in attendance. The meeting resolved that the rebel MPs had not given satisfactory reasons for the shifting of political alliance.
This report will be forwarded to the National Governing Council meeting that is going to be held tomorrow, and this is for them to ratify this particular report.
Should their fate be sealed in tomorrow's NGC meeting, which is the party's top decision-making organ, the party will be required to inform the registrar of political parties, who will initiate the process of removing the names of the affected members from the party's register, rendering them partyless. Relevant speakers and the electoral agency must also be informed of the same before the seats are declared vacant. Stephen Leto for Power Breakfast News.
Yes, that report by Stephen Leto is what we want to discuss here with my panelists, and related to that, because last week, of course, we saw that ODM had de-whipped those members who were deemed as rebels. But Jubilee MPs are now plotting to have de-whipped court members back to House committees. National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi is expected to give a ruling on the constitutionality of removing the MPs from committees. At the same time, Justice and Legal Affairs Committee Chairman Sam Chepkonga is rooting for changing the standing orders that could take away powers of political parties from to remove their members from these committees. Now, of course, what is happening here could actually bring forth the possibility of by-elections before even the election date. Do you think what ODM is doing is the right thing? Speaking from the Jubilee, I know you want just to oppose that whatever that party is doing, but do you think that any rebel MPs, even from Jubilee, should actually be punished in this manner?
No, it's not a wise decision on the part of the it is not a wise decision on the part of the ODM or even any other party. First and foremost, even us from our side, we do have rebels, and a good example is my friend Mr. Ole Kenta. He has said that he doesn't want to support Jubilee going forward, and he'll be vying using another party ticket. But we have not taken any action. So the same also applies in ODM. The problem they are going to face, if indeed they push through this thing, will be number one, these members of parliament, they do have supporters. They may move their supporters and therefore deny ODM seats in parliament, or even in subsequent election in 2017. So a good example is a person like the governor for Kwale. He's quite an influential person. Or even Gideon Mungaro. He's quite an influential person. So what will they be benefiting? Number two, there's also a cost implication, in the sense that the country is going to incur some money, and therefore it doesn't make our augury for us to go into an election, whereas we are only about 6 or 8 months towards the main election. And also the final point in regard to this issue is the issue of freedom of expression. The Constitution guarantees each and every Kenyan the right to express their political opinion. Under Article 38, any Kenyan has the right to express his opinion, and therefore, from where I stand, what these guys did, they never violated any law.
Okay.
And if at all there was any violation of any law, it is null and void to the extent it is conflicting with Article 38 of the Constitution. These guys were just saying, no, we love Uhuru Kenyatta. What's wrong with that? They are saying, we love what's wrong with that?
Yes. But anyway, do you think 8 months to the election that ODM should really be pushing, fighting these members with at this point in time?
You know, I don't think it even matters what I think. I think what's worrying me is how Jubilee is thinking. Because it's very unfortunate, and I think I say it here every Monday, that if you don't follow the law, then you have no country. Yeah? Let's just go back to the basics. The law is very clear in the Political Parties Act, very, very clear, of how you should behave when you're elected. These are members of parliament who are committing political fraud. Yeah, you are elected by your people because you're in a certain party, and to prove Mr. Irungu wrong, you can go and look at Mungaro's votes and look at Raila's votes in Mungaro's constituency. They are almost the same. Kwale governors, the same thing. So you have hundreds of thousands of people voting for you because you're in one party. Then you go midway because you've been given a brown envelope and go to a different party, and against the will of the hundreds of thousands of people. Come on. The rights of those people are also important. You go back to a by-election. What ODM has done, I think, is very, very refreshing, because you have a member of parliament that has been elected on your party. They have openly defected for no good reason to a different party. They have taken them through the disciplinary process, give them a chance to come and defend themselves. Now they've made a decision. I just hope now that all the other institutions, the political party registrar, the courts, because I know these people will go to court and all those things. I hope this process goes through so that for once we can follow the law, and for once you can have political maturity. Now, in Dimuli, you can't say that I prayed to God to give me a job. I prayed to God to give me a job. Since I didn't get a job, in the afternoon I'm going to be a Muslim. Then you pray to Allah. If Allah doesn't give you a job, then you change to be a Hindu. Life doesn't go like that. You're in a political party because you believe in those ideals. If you don't, move to another party and give your people a chance to elect this. So I'm also urging, and I know we've also begun the process in my own party, Wiper, to follow ODM's way, so that all the guys who went to Jubilee, and you saw our party leader Kalonzo tell Uhuru the other day, these are not my people anymore. These are Jubilee people. They are not in my party. They have come now to you. Yes. We are going to look for other people. And he said, the ground and the grassroots will vote you out by 8 o'clock in the morning. Yes. And that's what's going to happen in those by-elections.
The individuals who've been expelled by ODM's top organ, of course the decision is yet to be ratified by the National Executive Council, which meets today. It's Kwale Governor Salim Mvurya, Kisii County Deputy Governor Joash Mangi, Kwale Women Representative Zainab Chizuga. Others shown the door: Gideon Mungaro, Kilifi North MP, Mustafa Idi, Kilifi South, Stephen Kariuki, Member of Parliament for Madare, James Rege from Karachuonyo, and Samuel Arama from Nakuru West. Someone was pardoned. Marsabit Governor Ukuri Yatani has been pardoned. Someone else, John Waluke and Puria Buri of Tigania West, as well as Igembe Central's Cyprian Kubaya nominated MP Isaac Mwaura. Yeah, those were pardoned, but the rest have been expelled. Of course, the party definitely has a reason to take action against its members.
No, absolutely. I think there's absolutely no problem in a member of parliament or a member of a particular party to move out of that political party.
But you do agree, once you do that, then you should allow the party to do something.
They have absolutely the freedom to do that, and I think it is a democratic right. But once you leave that political party has rules and regulations. Yes. There is the Political Parties Act and many other laws that govern how you operate as a member of parliament or an MCA or a governor, and I absolutely agree with respect for rules and regulations. So if the ODM party feels that these members who have left, who have a plus to Jubilee, they have come to Jubilee, are no longer members of its party and they remove them, they have every right to do so. And I see absolutely no problem with it. But the problem we've had in Kenya is that people who say that they have left that particular political party do not resign. So it is very difficult to sort of, they say in a public rally that I have left, I've now moved to this particular party. But on paper, they still remain members of that political party. The question is how the courts or how the registrar of political parties interprets that to ensure that in fact that member is no longer a member of that political party and needs to be removed. But I must say that if we want to really go forward, as now we are forming big political parties like Jubilee, it is important also that we should enforce and abide by the rules. I would say that as a member of parliament, if I felt at any moment that I did not agree with that political party that I am in, the onus is on me to resign from that political party and to seek either re-election or to do what I want to do, free of the shackles of that political party of which I was elected on. So it is not a question of Jubilee or CORD, but what I want to say is that the ODM action is a big benefit to Jubilee, because all these people who would be expelled, if they had come to Jubilee, they would stay with Jubilee. And now that they don't
need to go to a by-election.
Yes, and that has consequences. Because we have a very short time. It is a costly exercise. There is no guarantee that they would be that particular party would triumph in that particular by-election, because people vote differently in by-elections. And you can never be certain of the results.
But now this other matter of the whipping rebel MPs from House committees, and we are seeing that being fought within Parliament, because now the Jubilee side is trying to push for the standing orders of Parliament to be changed, so that parties do not have that kind of authority, that once you appoint members, your members to House committees, then you cannot discipline them, you cannot whip this member. Do you think that is right? Because there's a possibility with the tyranny of numbers that Jubilee has in Parliament, if that is a party agenda, they can actually change the standing orders. Do you think that is right?
I think it is common knowledge that Jubilee has a tyranny of numbers. So whatever they choose to change, and now that they have more members from the opposition who subscribe to Jubilee, really, for me, that's not a point of discussion. My issue would be when I hear my brother Irongo Kangata saying that it is against Article 38 of the Constitution, then he ought to have read there is a particular article of the Constitution which the Political Parties Act, Section 14, gives effect to. And it is very clear that if you are a member of a political party and you choose to join another political party or sell the ideals and the agenda of another political party, you do not need a rocket scientist to tell you that people left. You saw them in Kasarani. Each one of them for the last 3 days, those 3 days, saying that I have left my political party, I will support Jubilee. Really, it is clear that those people left. And the law is very clear that if you subscribe to the ideals,
or even deem,
even if you deemed, and it is very clear that it is more than deeming, it is actually the reality that they've actually moved. And when I hear my brother saying that it is against Article 38 of the Constitution, I think it is a clear indication that he also believes that party hopping is unconstitutional. Which is supported, because I'll come back. Let me first of all articulate my agenda. Now, when he says even in Jubilee there is a member who has decided not to support Jubilee, again they went to the Political Parties Act, amended it so that anybody who was a member of these political parties that are folding up would be allowed to choose where they are going to. So anybody who was in Jubilee and now chooses to follow another political party, you cannot punish them, because again they provided for it in the law. Now anybody who is a member of another political party who was not part of the team that was that folded, that lowered their flags in Kasarani, then according to the law, you've gone against the law. And there are no two ways about it.
Yes.
However, I can tell you for a fact, if you look at these processes, of course, you've seen ODM has gone through a number of processes. It will now go through their NGC. After that, they will write to the Registrar of Political Parties and subsequently to the Speaker. You will see those guys going to court. So I can tell you for a fact, what ODM is doing is just a PR exercise. Because, again, according to the law, you cannot have a by-election 3 months to the election. And clearly, if you look at all those processes, it would be very difficult. But if you ask me, it would be important to have these by-elections to actually test the preparedness of IEBC as a commission, and to also see if those particular members of parliament are popular on the ground. And I can tell
they
you,
are very popular.
and I can tell you for a fact,
these guys are very popular.
Those guys will
But
lose
on this matter of the whipping in Parliament, if at all the standing orders are changed, surely even you in Jubilee, you might be in a similar position where someone who's not towing the party line is actually the chairman of a certain committee and is no longer working for the party. Now you're saying that the party should not be able to de-whip that member.
Well, you see, Jubilee, as opposed to CORD, is a party that accommodates opposition. We are very democratic. A good example is a person like Keter, that guy of the member of parliament from the Rift Valley. He has been fighting us left, right and center, but we have never taken action.
He has not defected.
Well,
Defecting is
breaking the law.
Let me tell you, let me ask you, this idea of defecting, I don't know how to define it, because I doubt as to whether these guys have defected. In fact, I'm going to represent them pro bono, because they have not defected. Because
but the question is, if a member fails to work for the party agenda in a House committee, let's say the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, and you're vetting someone who you want passed, and this particular member is simply just working with everyone else and not your party, don't you think the party should be allowed to punish that member?
No, in this sense, you must allow us what we call the freedom of conscience. A good example is like we were vetting the Deputy Chief Justice the other day. The position of the party was that we need to support her. But me, I have stronger Christian ethics, which makes me not support anyone who goes against the teachings of my Christianity. And therefore, I was compelled, because of those strong Christian ethics, to oppose her nomination. But surely, why would the party de-whip me? Because I was just exercising my deep felt religious convictions. And therefore, the same manner should happen even in other agendas. So there are some instances where a matter will come before the committee or even the plenary, and a member of parliament probably has the right or even the freedom to exercise in a manner that is contrary to the official party position. And if you are a party that is not...
I think we're mixing issues.
No.
You see, there is one thing, Irungu Kangata having his own personal Christian beliefs, and he's allowed as a member of parliament to share them and say, I don't subscribe to, I don't support this person because there is an issue of corruption. I do not subscribe to this because he or she is supporting gay rights, which I do not subscribe to. That is his own opinion, and we respect that. But when it reaches a level where Irungu Kangata openly says he has joined ODM, and you want Irungu Kangata to still represent in that committee?
No,
he's actually gone against the law.
They never say that we have joined Jubilee. They say we shall join Jubilee.
To be factual.
After the next election, not now.
Let's listen to the governor.
Mheshimiwa, because we like to say the truth.
Yes,
right?
thank you.
The member of parliament for Mathare, Karaoke, he came on TV wearing a Jubilee shirt and he said, I have since left ODM, I am now in Jubilee, this is the party that I want to be in starting now. And he was in a Jubilee ticket. Now, politics is about representation. He sits on 2 house committees on behalf of ODM. Okay? Now, ODM is saying, since you have come out publicly, Mr. Kariuki, and said you are not with us anymore, please give us back our seats so that we can give them to other members who can represent us. Because committees are represented by political parties, right? And that's what makes the strength and the balance of committees, right? Then the speaker comes and says, or is going to make a ruling, or the other MP wants to change the standing orders to say, no, even if you are not representing ODM, you still must sit in the committee as an ODM MP. It's completely unfair. This is exactly like you resigning from your job and the court saying you can continue earning a salary.
Because
why would you earn a salary and you don't work there anymore?
I think in this particular case,
it's completely unfair and it's wrong.
Well, in this particular case, the problem with the removal of them from committees is that, as far as the speaker is concerned, they still remain members of that political party.
No, they don't.
They are.
They
have not.
They came on TV and they said
the party to decide who represents
it is. The party can decide that. But Mr. Kariuki or any other person is still a member of that political party in the eyes of the speaker, because that political party has not removed that MP from their list. That is why the law is there. The law is very clear, and the rules, and the rules are there, very, very clear. What has not happened until now is for the political parties to follow it up and say, we have expelled those members, they're no longer our members, and we're removing them, and we're requesting the political party's registrar to strike them as members of parliament of our party, and then call for a new election.
Yes.
But today, as they sit in parliament, they are members of ODM.
But guys,
they are members of
leaders. Until they are expelled and they are forced to go for by-election, then the party has no right to actually remove them from the committees.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
No, that's not the position. No, that's not the position, because the political parties are the ones that decide who represents them in the committees. And actually, I'm deeply saddened that the leaders seated with us today as panelists who want anarchy to prevail. When are we ever going to build this country? If leaders can sit down and say, you do the wrong thing, we'll support you.
Okay.
It's a very
gentlemen, now take a short break.
Just before you move to a different thing, I think you noticed that the registrar acted suo motu when all the political parties who were in Kasarani lowered their flag. She did not wait for the parties to write to her that we have folded. She outrightly went on national TV and said, I have literally struck off these political parties from our register. What did you see PNU doing? They went to court and said, look here, we never folded. And actually court has given them an order to say that they were not. Now, if I was the registrar of political parties, what else do you need? When a member of a political party elected on a political party's ticket goes and campaigns against their party in Malindi, and they are the ones, for instance, all ODM MPs who were in Malindi, because we had actually gone to observe that election, were fiercely supporting the Jubilee candidate, both in resources, both in campaigning, and virtually everything. They were the same people were in Kasarani, and they said, we have left, we have moved. So I also, if I was the registrar, she needs to act suo motu and strike them out. Absolutely. Why are you using different yardsticks for different things?
I think there is a very major
we need to take a short break.
There is a big difference.
Gentlemen, we need to take a short break. When we return, we'll be discussing a lot more, but now we need to join Joy Mudengi and Willis Waburu in our studio for breakfast tips.